this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This is just a little experiment for me, but you might be interested. I've got several types of water. Stick to the orchids. I've got this stuff, which is RO water. I'm going to stick some of that in the jug, which is clean. And like all good scientists, which I'm not, I've forgotten to get my TDS meter and my pH meter. I'll go and do that now. Duh. If you're going to do a video, at least get ready, for goodness sake. Anyway, it was in the middle of other things and this just dawned on me, and I thought I'd give it a go. Right, types of water that I've got. That stuff, RO water, that's in there. I've got water out of the tap, which doesn't get near my orchids because it's very hard water. It comes out at well over 250 parts per million as a start point. If I start adding fertiliser to that, we're up in the overdose levels of, in some cases, unknown things. You know, it's difficult to find out exactly what's in your tap water, and yes, I know I can, but I don't want to, simply because it's not getting near my orchids, so it becomes irrelevant. These gadgets have stirred up a hornet's nest, so be it. And I was told that if this is calibrated correctly, it should read 1. I don't get that, but I'll go with what others have said. But mine reads 1, then some random figure, then 1, then some random figure, and then it sits on 1 for a bit, then another random figure, then it sits on 1. Yeah, that's reading 12. Well, the last time that jug was used, it was washed up in the washing up type stuff, and it was probably left to dry, so there may be a little bit of residue washing up liquid in there. This water's now dissolved. Anyway, that's staying at 12. Nothing, next to nothing, negligible. Now this is really scientific. This is CalMag. And in theory, that's all that's in it. There might be some stabilizers in there to keep it stable, I don't know, don't care. So this is really scientific. A sploop. That is not going anywhere near my orchids. This is to prove a point. That's CalMag. So in theory, I have now added an overdose of calcium and magnesium. Yeah? And we give it a good stir with our stirry stick, which is a Chinese plastic chopstick. Mainly because if you use a wooden one, it soaks stuff up. Oh, that has settled down at it settled at 1. As soon as I picked it up, it changed, but it does hover around 1. Now, what's that done to the pH? That's exactly what I was expecting. There's calcium in there. What makes your water hard? It's calcium in the main. There's all sorts of other reasons. But that sploop has taken that pH right up. So it's gone from around 7 to nearly 8. And given what we've been discussing, yeah, if your pH in your feeding water is higher than this magic 5.8, you're restricting access to calcium, yeah? So what the hell good is that going to do, adding it to my feed water? Do you know, I'm not even going to answer that. If my feed water at the low levels of feed is down at a pH of somewhere between 6.3 and 6.5, and I add some of that in so that I can get some calcium into my plants, what am I going to achieve? I hope you've come to the same answer I have. That is of no use to me whatsoever. That will go on the raffle table next time I go into the Orchid Society. Just as a matter of interest, I wonder what the hell that's done to the TDS reading. Not that I'm interested, but wallop. It's taken it up to about 190. Now, okay, that wasn't a measured amount, and that would be a hell of an overdose to get near plants, I'm sure, because that was an imperial sploop. That wasn't a metric sploop, that was an imperial sploop, you know, so it's quite a concentrated thing. Now I will have to give these two a flipping good rinse now. That is going to go down the sink, because that is no use to me whatsoever. So I'm back to where I was before. I wanted to prove the point, yeah? And there are certain plants that could become important to, because there is a group of orchids called Paphiopedilums that most people would agree, yeah, actually like a higher pH in their pot. How do they get their calcium then? And that is a conundrum. I have no answer. I have some possible answers, like those particular types of Paphiopedilums have evolved into either needing next to no calcium, or they've found another way of getting it, and they're overriding the general accepted principles of pH. But they live and they thrive in limestone areas. Not all of them, some of them grow on forest floors in the leaf litter and stuff like that, where their root environment would be acidic, and they're fine. That's how those types live. But there are those in the limestone areas that generally all the water around them, around their roots, splashes from water and all that sort of stuff, is at a higher pH level. And at that level, the generally accepted understanding is that calcium is virtually not available, and yet they live and thrive. There's always an exception to the rule. Okay, just a little something. You choose what you do with that information. I know what I'm doing with it. That's going down the sink because I don't want it. So I'm back to where I was before. This is my source water. I'm not increasing my feed levels to lower the pH. I am awaiting an additive recommended by somebody who knows what they're talking about, which is citric acid. And when I get it, I wish I had it today. I need to feed my orchids today. They've been flushed twice. My mounted orchids, my dailies as I call them, have just had 2 flushes because I'm waiting for this stuff to arrive. Unfortunately it's not here, and I'm not doing a 3rd flush on the trot, not in the growing season, so they'll have to have what I've always done, which is the low level feed, which means I'm restricting access to calcium. Yet again, I know it's happening, and the solution is coming soon, at which point I can rectify that shortfall. And you know, that's all I've got to change. All this knowledge and all this overload of information and everything that's been coming around, even from me, I've been trying and everything like that, it's got to the point now where I think, well, hang on, how far off am I? And the answer is not much. And in some cases, because of the media being used, maybe hardly any at all, discussed in previous videos. But that really is it. I'm going no further, on the grounds that I have a balanced feed developed by science, specifically aimed at orchids and specifically designed for that water. That's good enough for me, quite honestly. Understanding what's going on in the background is bonus knowledge, not essential knowledge for me. But the little snippet of information that I was missing about pH values and nutrient uptake, I didn't have that. Now I've got it, I'll deal with it. And I'll deal with it in the most simplistic way, and I'll state it again. My first watering in a sequence of 3 will be what I've always done. A low level feed with the appropriate pH, around somewhere between 6.3, 6.5. It doesn't have to be that accurate, it really doesn't. But at that point, quite a lot, almost all of the nutrients will be readily available for that plant. What won't be available readily is calcium and the possibility of a couple of the others of those micro elements, the tiny little bits that are in, you know, in parts per million terms. They go to 2 decimal places, some of them. In a million parts you might have a couple. So they are tiny. Nonetheless, they're essential. They need to be there. So that's feed 1. Nothing changes. Feed 2, which will follow straight after, and on my daily mounts that could well be the next day. They will get the same level of feed, and then I'll adjust the pH down to about 5.4, 5.5, and that will make available the bits that have been missing, especially the calcium. But a couple of other bits might kick in as well. I don't need to know them exactly, but that deals with the balance. Those two waterings, one after the other, balances it out. The plant will then deal with it. What will third watering be? That. It's called a flush. Neglected badly last year with consequences, not neglected this year. So that will be my sequence. So what have I changed? 1 watering out of 3, and it's a minor change. It's not a big deal. So that's my bit. I've done all I'm going to do. There are other places you can go and find more information if you want, but I've had enough, quite honestly. As I said, it's an information overload that I don't need. Still goes back to the if it's not broke, don't fix it, and quite honestly, the majority of my plants are doing fine. But I'll always stand back and think, that plant looks great, but could it be better? And this little change should fill in that little gap and make things better with such a minor change to my procedures. Now, when we get into autumn and everything slows down, we've got a whole new ball game coming up, but let's just wait till we get there. We've got enough going on at the moment trying to grow the flipping things in the growing season. So, as I've said, that's my lot on the subject for now. I will revisit it later in the year when the growth slows down and I'm preparing for winter, because I will change again. But again, it's only a minor change. So, hope you, well, I can't say enjoyed that. That's not my idea of enjoyment. Standing looking at my orchids, I get a lot more enjoyment out of that. But, you know, that was just to prove a point that if you start messing about with your feed and adding other bits in there, yeah, it changes things. And as long as you know exactly what you're doing and the change is for the better, all well and good. I don't believe that change would have been for the better. In fact, probably could have been doing harm. That's why it's going down the sink. See you again. Well, that was a bit of luck. Literally at the end of that video I took the camera in and I was uploading onto the computer and the rattle of the letterbox went, and I rushed out and the fairy dust has arrived. In the world of my orchids, this is crushed unicorn horn. It's gonna fix a problem I didn't really know I had, but I've seen the results of it. So that's the theory anyway. Now this is a powder, and I've never had anything like this before. I hope it's got a resealable pack. Yes, it has. Oh, right. Fairy dust. I'm going to close that again because most powders that are to be dissolved in water react to moisture in the air. So the idea is to keep them away from moist air by keeping the packets sealed tight. Right, RO water in the jug. These were rinsed before I put them away 10 minutes ago, so they should be clean. This shouldn't matter. This should. So, clean water. We've just tested this once. Come on, get down there. That's better. That's exactly the same RO water as was there before. And this jug has been rinsed thoroughly from where it was before. Oh, we're getting down there. I think these pH meters were designed by the same creator that actually invented Paphiopedilans and decided that they're just going to be slow, tough, you have to live with it. Okay, what again, I'm not after an accurate reading, what I'm after is the change. Okay, that's hovering at 7.1, 7.2. That'll do. It's close enough for jazz, because what I'm going to do next is certainly not science. It's scientific, but not proper science. Now, I don't know how much of this fairy dust I need to make a change, but as I've got a bag full here that's probably going to last me a lifetime, it's going to get a pinch. Yeah? Oh, it's granules, not powder. Alright, actually, it can have 1.5 pinches. Now, again, those are imperial pinches, they're not metric pinches, those are imperial. And yes, I am larking around. Otherwise, I'm going to get comments saying, well, what's the difference between an imperial pinch and a metric pinch? Well, you tell me, because I don't know. I'm larking around. Now, how long are you going to take to flip and dissolve, I wonder? You're making my video too long. Come on! I suppose I could speed this bit up, but then the voice goes. And we don't want that, do we? No, I certainly don't. Right, most of that is dissolved now. Yeah, that's virtually it. There's the odd little bit of a granule left. Doesn't matter. For the purposes of this, that should have rocketed downwards, the pH. That's exactly what I wanted to see. The pH on the pH meter now reads 3. Would I want that anywhere near my orchids? Would I hell? That probably dissolved metal. That's what I was after. That's what I was told it would do. I was also told that will not do my plants any harm at the measures I need to do what I'm trying to do, which is get a batch of water mixed up with my low level feed, add a bit of that and take the pH down below 5.8. That's all it's for. But what I didn't want was to add another load of other stuff in there. As I say, if you start using things that lower the pH that have got other things in them, apart from just a basic stuff like that, you're adding other bits into there, unknowns, and you don't know the effect they're going to have. Maybe good, maybe bad, but if you get rid of them and don't use them, you don't have to worry about it. So that's exactly what I was after. And as my fairy dust has arrived, just as I was about to start watering, and I flushed yesterday, guess what sort of water my dailies are going to get, my mounts? Yeah, they're going to get some magic fairy dust added. They get their calcium today. That's actually made my day. I like that a lot. It doesn't sound like much, but you know, when you know you've got a background problem that's niggling and a simple solution comes up, there's a bouncy feel to it. It's nice. I like it. So that's what's going to happen now. I'll go around the dailies. And I've got different dailies. There are 3 sorts. There are bare rooted, yeah. There are those with reasonably fresh moss, and there are still a couple lurking that have got old moss that need dealing with. Now, all 3 of those will react to this fairy dust water differently. The bare rooted ones are going to take in whatever they can until their roots dry, and whatever's left on the roots will still be there, yeah. And then tomorrow's watering and subsequent waterings will change that. Either wash it off or add to it. Whatever. They're low level feed, don't worry. Yeah, so that's one lot. The lot with relatively new moss, their roots are in a stable environment, so they'll get longer to take in the new fairy dust mix. Yeah, so they'll get a better dose. The effect will probably be a little more dramatic. Whether it's visible or not, I don't know. I doubt it. Not in one watering. And then the other type, of which I've only got a couple, are in older moss that need dealing with. Now, because that older moss is breaking down at quite a rate, and I'm about to absolutely soak it with my new fairy dust mix, the effect there might be less dramatic on the plant, on the grounds that that old moss could have been affecting my non-fairy dust mix and actually sort of balancing itself out. But it's going to get a dose of this anyway. So, talking about it, Roger, and get on with it. The sun's out, it's getting warm in there again. See you again. Thanks for visiting my channel. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, there are some others you could watch below. You can just click on the thumbnails. If you'd like to see more of my videos, please subscribe to my channel. You can use the link below. I post on most days, so hope to see you again soon. Thanks for stopping by.